Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Hello from the General Services Department. We have a presentation on the end of Operation Iraqi Freedom. We're going to start with a video of President Obama's speech announcing the end of combat operations in Iraq.
From this desk, 7.5 years ago, President Bush announced the beginning of military operations in Iraq. Much has changed since that night. A war to disarm a state became a fight against an insurgency. Terrorism and sectarian warfare threatened to tear Iraq apart. Thousands of Americans gave their lives. Tens of thousands have been wounded. Our relations abroad were strained. Our unity at home was tested. These are the rough waters encountered during the course of one of America's longest wars. Yet there has been one constant amidst these shifting tides. At every turn, America's men and women in uniform have served with courage and resolve. As Commander-in-Chief, I am incredibly proud of their service. And like all Americans, I am awed by their sacrifice and by the sacrifices of their families. The Americans who have served in Iraq completed every mission they were given. They defeated a regime that had terrorized its people. Together with Iraqis and coalition partners who made huge sacrifices of their own, our troops fought block by block to help Iraq seize the chance for a better future. They shifted tactics to protect the Iraqi people, trained Iraqi security forces, and took out terrorist leaders. Because of our troops and civilians, and because of the resilience of the Iraqi people, Iraq has the opportunity to embrace a new destiny, even though many challenges remain. So tonight, I am announcing that the American combat mission in Iraq has ended. Operation Iraqi Freedom is over, and the Iraqi people now have lead responsibility for the security of their country.
As you heard, at that point, we had decided that we weren't going to continue with combat operations in Iraq. And he announced that we would start Operation New Dawn. The combat operations entailed in Iraqi Freedom were declared over, and Operation New Dawn was begun. The new operation was intended to stabilize the country, train, advise, and assist the Iraqi security forces in counter-terrorist operations, and protect U.S. government, civilian, and military efforts throughout the country. This might have worked if the educational level and socio-political religious orientation of the Iraqi citizens were comparable to the U.S. What we found out was Iraqi was nothing like the United States. Their orientation is not towards a central government, it is towards a tribal chieftain, many tribal chieftains. Saddam Hussein was able to keep things together by terrorism. Anybody who stepped out of line would be dragged down to the basement of the Iraqi palace and tortured to death. When you've got folks afraid of that, they tend to fall in line pretty quick. They were not sad to see him go. However, at that point, they reverted to the allegiances they had to their family. The chieftain orientation is very familial, goes back generations. June 11th became the bloodiest month in Iraq for the U.S. military since June of 2009, with 15 soldiers killed, only one of them outside of combat operations. On 7 July, 2 U.S. troops were killed, one seriously injured in an IED attack at Victory Base Complex outside of Baghdad. They were members of the 145th Brigade Support Battalion, 116 Cavalry Heavy Brigade Combat Team, and Idaho National Guard unit based in Post Falls, Idaho. Specialist Nathan R. Byers, 24, Specialist Nicholas Newby, 20, were killed in the attack, and Staff Sergeant Jason Rzepa 30 was seriously injured. In September, Iraq signed a contract to buy 18 Lockheed Martin F-16 warplanes, becoming the 26th nation to operate the F-16. This is strange to me. I was stationed in the Air Force between 72 and 76 at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base in Tucson, Arizona, which is where they have the Military Aircraft Storage and Disposition Center. Square miles of planes parked, some of which couldn't be sold because the idea was they might bring a foreign power's firepower up too close to what we had. But here we are selling F-16s to a country that we don't know is going to be on our side in a few years. Because of windfall profits from oil, the Iraqi government is planning to double this originally planned 18 to 36. Iraqi is relying on U.S. military for air support as it rebuilds its forces and battles a stubborn Islamist insurgency. With the collapse of diplomatic discussions about extending the stay of any U.S. troops beyond 2011, U.S. troops would not be granted any immunity from the Iraqi government. If they shot somebody even in self-defense, they would be prosecuted under the Geneva Convention in The Hague or wherever. On 21 October 2011, President Obama announced at a White House press conference that all remaining U.S. troops and trainers would leave Iraq by the end of the year as previously scheduled, bringing the U.S. mission in Iraq to an end. The last American soldier to die in Iraq before the withdrawal was SPC David Hickman. He was killed by a roadside bomb in Baghdad on 14 November. On November 2011, the U.S. Senate voted down a resolution to formally end the war by bringing its authorization by Congress to an end. On December 15th, an American military ceremony was held in Baghdad, putting a formal end to the U.S. mission in Iraq. The last U.S. combat troops withdrew from Iraq on 18 December 2011, although the U.S. Embassy and consulates continue to maintain a staff of more than 20,000, including 100-plus military personnel with the Office of Security Cooperation Iraq, U.S. Marine Embassy Guards, and between 4,000 and 5,000 private military contractors. In short, New Dawn didn't accomplish much. The struggle between internal sectarian forces and terrorist elements continues to this day.
Thank you.